Welcome into the post-game recap, guys. I'm here with Ben. I'm Dave, and Rockets improved to 8-3 with their first NBA Cup win this season against the Portland Blazers. Trailblazers tonight, they win 140-116. A much improved Blazers team, by the way. A couple of players on that team, Shaedon, Sharpe, Deni, Avdija, came in red hot over the last 5 games, averaging 55 plus points. After a little short stretch to start the game, Rockets just blew them out of the water, making a substitution where their offense just took off the rest of the game, 44, 43 minutes. I'm here with Ben DuBose, who was at the game as well. Ben, what was your reaction as Rockets move on to 8-3 on the season?
Yeah, NBA Cup fever is back on because with the 24-point margin, they're now at plus 13 through 2 games, which gives them a fighting chance. The Nuggets, because they had that big win against a Warriors team that was missing a lot of guys, they had sort of an artificial advantage when it comes to a potential tiebreaker. But now all of a sudden, the Rockets are 1-1 themselves, and they have Denver coming in next week. So all of a sudden, the NBA Cup is back on the table. You lost by double digits in San Antonio, but you offset that in a big way by winning by 24 against a Portland team that beat Denver in its first Cup game a couple of weeks ago. So as you said, this was a Blazers team that went in with a winning record, and the Rockets, they're 8-3 now, and they've won 8 of their last 9. This is what good teams do. Really, this is what great teams do. Go out at home and take care of business to where there's nothing to sweat down the stretch of the game. And my biggest takeaway, I mean, Kevin Durant at 37 years old is still Kevin Durant.
It's a
And
monster.
more than just this one game, this reflects why Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets were such a good pairing because he's still putting up, by and large, the same numbers that he always has from a scoring perspective and efficiency perspective. Tonight, he was 12 of 19, and the Rockets were plus 37 in his minutes.
Jeez.
Yet, through 11 games, he still has not shot 20 times in a single game for the Rockets. And his usage rate is the lowest right now of his entire career. So he's still putting up the numbers, but because the Rockets have the right supporting cast around him, it's not like they need him to go out and do everything. He's not having to be Superman. Now, the production often is at Superman levels because he's able to really hone in and do what he does best from an efficiency perspective. I know he had a couple of outlier games last week, but by and large, he's still a 50-40 type guy. And to see him go out defensively, he's way better than I expected. It's not like he's just going out and putting up numbers on offense. No, I mean, he's holding his own in the defensive end of the court. I think that's what the plus minus reflects, especially tonight. But I just think when you see Kevin and the Rockets put it all together like this is why, and it's not just for this season, honestly, it's for the rest of Kevin's career. This is why Kevin Durant wanted to come to Houston, and this is why Houston, in my opinion, is such a good fit for him in what should be the final arc of his career in the late 30s and maybe even getting into the 40s. Like, this is the blueprint for how Kevin Durant can last a long time. He's getting good shots, they're in the flow of the offense, and he's not having to overextend himself. And there's a lot of other guys that had big games. We'll get to them, but I think on a night when KD scores a game high 30 and he's plus 37, we have to start with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, KD was terrific in the last game. He had 16 in the first quarter last game. He had 16 in the first quarter tonight, 5 of 8 in the previous game in that quarter, 6 of 8 tonight. He has set the tone for this offense, which is going to continue to lead the league after tonight as well, dropping 140 on the Blazers. He just looks terrific. Yeah, like you said, 37 years old, but he doesn't look like he's missed a beat. And I just, yeah, I mean, this is really setting the tone. Obviously, Sengun was very efficient tonight. Jabari had a very good scoring game as well. But it's amazing to me because, the Blazers came in, they're the 14th ranked team this year defensively. They're an improved team. They're better than I think, some people thought they would be this year. Not an elite defense, but improved, certainly. We were talking about their ball pressure, that it was going to be a little bit more of a challenge. I mean, Rockets offense, they can just beat you in so many different ways at this point. There really isn't much of a weakness out there on the floor as far as finding the open guy. So if you double KD, you double Sengun, they're going to find somebody. Tonight, Jabari was hitting shots. It wasn't Tari's night. We're going to talk about Tari. He unfortunately suffered an injury in this game. But just offensively, this team is great. And we didn't even see much of an an Amen Thompson performance. And to the point of saying how this team can win in a variety of ways, they didn't dominate the glass tonight. They won by one, and they had a better offensive rebounding showing tonight. They only won the board battle by one. They killed in turnover battle, which is surprising, which is where Portland actually thrives. They only had 6 turnovers tonight, the Rockets offense. So, I mean, I just tip my hat to Ime, what he's built, because the offense, maybe this team is shifting in identity. Certainly, we've talked about that, but the offense is thriving.
Yeah, it looks like they made some tactical adjustments. You mentioned the turnovers, only 6 for the game. Even though Amen didn't finish that well, I thought it was one of Amen's better games overall, at least offensively, because he didn't turn the ball over. I thought he had some really nice blow-bys where he got the balls to the spots they needed to get to. The shots didn't always go in, so the assist total wasn't what you would like to see, but I thought by and large it was perhaps the game where he was most in control this year of the offense. And I just think overall, keeping the turnovers down, but also look at the 3-point discrepancy. 45 for the Rockets to 36 for the Blazers. And the
Yeah.
accuracy largely held. They were just under 40% in 3-point accuracy. So even at higher volume, which we had talked going into this week about the Rockets being at a math disadvantage
Mm-hmm.
by making threes, but not always putting enough up. Well, now on this homestand against weaker opponents, although as you said, the Blazers aren't bad, they're more mediocre. Well, the Rockets are getting the volume up and the accuracy is still by and large holding. So that's a really good sign. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's something that was a point of emphasis this week with the Rockets being at home and able to practice more. So kudos to Ime Udoka for that. And then to close the loop on Kevin, I thought one thing that was really noteworthy, in the second half, it felt like they made a lot of plays in the half court. Reed got going after a slow start, which was great to see. But in the first half, they actually got going in transition. And for a 37-year-old Kevin Durant to get out and run in transition, like I was not expecting Kevin at this age to compete as hard as he is night in, night out. Like a lot of guys, by the time they get to almost year 20, they take plays off, or maybe they don't compete as hard defensively. He still competes defensively. He gets up and down the floor. A lot of the easy buckets he got were because he was willing to get out and run. And these aren't things you see from a guy of his age that's done what he has done in the NBA. It's very rare. And I think it speaks to his professionalism. Obviously, he's in phenomenal shape. It speaks to the quality of his teammates because obviously guys like Şengün and Amen can create and get him the ball. Reed's also had some really nice kick aheads in this hot stretch of him. Reed's now scored in double figures in 5 consecutive games. So Kevin, he just does it in so many different ways, and it's why he's one of the best scorers in NBA history. But boy, I mean, this is a night to give him his flowers, in my opinion, to go out and really allow you to play on the front foot. I know the Blazers came back and made it a game for a little bit in the second quarter, but when Kevin goes out and puts up 16 plus in the first quarter, the way he's done in each of the last 2 games,
Yeah.
it puts you in a really good spot at home and it allows things to flow so much more organically when you're not having to chase the game and you're not having to worry that this is one that's going to get away from you. Like both of these games on this homestand were just very professional, workmanlike wins, and I think it starts with your 37-year-old former MVP and 2-time champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, it's a great catch. Just going to be totally transparent. I didn't even think about the volume of threes tonight because Rockets are, they're the best 3-point shooting team in the league and also the worst as far as volume of threes per game. They take the fewest in the league. I don't know if I would call it worst, but I'm saying they take the fewest. Yeah. And for them to just kind of shatter that tonight by probably 18 attempts, their actual average, is a great sign. And as you said, the 3-point shooting held. I want to talk about Şengün's 3-point shooting. I accidentally started the clips, but I caught him in time. But do have some from Şengün tonight. Şengün was terrific shooting threes. I mean, comfortable. And this is what we were talking about before because Şengün had the 5 of 8 game against OKC. Then he went through a funk shooting threes. And we were saying, well, he's got to prove that he's got this shot. But the biggest most positive sign about Şengün is he's very comfortable shooting them now, and where he wasn't before. So I really wasn't as worried that whether they're going to drop. And tonight you could see how comfortable he was. I'll play these clips here, but
3 of those shots that you just showed are from different spots on the floor. The first from the left corner in a half-court set. Then you had 2 that were a little earlier in the shot clock from the wings. Like this isn't just, he's found a spot like PJ Tucker back in the day. No, these are legit shots. And if he
Hmm.
has to take them from 25, 26 feet, because that's the space, then he's capable of doing that. And
Yeah.
his last 2 games, he's combined for 6 makes. So, we had urged caution as recently as a week or so ago that so much of his 3-point shooting average and the overall volume was being propped up by that opener in OKC where he had
Hmm.
5. That's no longer the case. He's had 6 the last 2 games. So that's not meant to, overlook the other parts of his game. You put up, 25 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, I believe it was, almost a
Yep.
triple double. Obviously, you're doing a ton of things well, but the reason we focused on the threes, like, that's the final piece of the puzzle. The defense has come around. He's getting to the free throw line more. The efficiency's ticking back up. If he can shoot threes at decent volume, that's a superstar. That's the
Yeah.
final piece to the puzzle. If he can make threes, and a lot of it just comes down to making enough to make defenders respect that space on the floor. As I'm sure you remember last year, defenders were more than willing to sag off, and just by the end of the year, they weren't even treating him as a threat beyond 20 feet or so.
Yeah.
So
I was going to
it
say eight
completely
feet,
changes
but
the
yeah,
offense.
right. No, exactly. I mean, last year I didn't feel, I'm going to be totally honest, very comfortable with Şengün shooting beyond 8 feet. I think even he himself, the way he played, he
Yeah.
was constantly trying to get to the basket. So, I mean, I give him a ton of credit. He has definitely made a leap forward in this regard. And I agree. This is something that to me changes my outlook, how I would view Şengün. That in defense, he's certainly made some improvements defensively. Uh, the last few years. So the 3-point shooting, I'm continuing to look for good things from him on that. Jabari was really good tonight as
Yep.
well. Hit 4 of 9 from 3, 9 of 16 overall. There was a really cool, well, I don't know about cool, but there was a play where Jabari was following his man down low. Somebody cut free, so it was 2-on-1
Yeah.
going at Jabari, and it was Shaedon Sharpe who got the ball and just
Dunked on
crammed
him.
it on Jabari, and you're like, ooh, and Shaedon Sharpe let him hear it. And on the very next play, going down the other way, Jabari gets the ball in the corner, drains a 3 over Sharpe, and then in typical Jabari fashion, looks at Sharpe and kind of goes back at him.
And the Portland bench too, because they were letting him hear about it, and he hit that 3 right in front of the Portland bench.
Yes, I'm sure it was a sweet moment, especially the whole 3 is greater than 2. So really, it was KD, Jabari, and Şengün tonight that kind of, I don't want to say carried the offense, but the bulk of the offense, efficient offense,
Yeah.
certainly came
And
from
I
those guys.
and I thought there were a lot of little signs that I liked tonight. Jabari immediately getting his revenge on Shaedon Sharpe and the Blazers bench, and having some fun. Like, that's the way you want to see a competitor respond. Like, he
Yes.
immediately got back. And, the fourth quarter, the way KD and Alperen Şengün are leading Reed Sheppard is amazing to watch. Like, they are, empowering him. They are helping him become more confident. And it felt like at one point that Reed was maybe see Reed figure it out on the fly and his teammates empower him and continue to help him develop. To see Steven immediately come to the aid of Tari after their little exchange during the Washington game. All of these are signs to me of a team that has the right chemistry, that the collective, it's, this is a very well coached team and the
Mm-hmm.
culture is really strong. I think all of those, that's the way to put a bow on it. The culture seems really strong to me, and all of those were examples of it, even the unfortunate news of the Tari injury.
Yeah, and we do give Steven Adams his flowers, I think, quite a bit, but I don't know if we give it even then enough. He came into this game, and I want to say, like, everybody who started had a really good game. Şengün, Jabari, but there was not a good start from those guys. Portland jumped on them. I think they jumped out 17-10, and you were kind of like, oh boy, they better put their big boy pants on for this game. Portland's here to play. They took Şengün out, put in Adams, and Adams just sparked that. They just took off. Of course, KD was powering the offense, but Adams tonight, 11 rebounds, 5 offensive in just over 17 minutes. And what was his plus 22 in that time span? I mean, the guy is something magical as far as the way he impacts the game, and people cannot keep him off the glass. Like, I don't remember Steven Adams being this insane the first 5-6 years of his career. Maybe I just didn't pay enough attention, or the league has changed so much that his rebounding now sticks out. But he is just something else as far as an elite rebounder. He's just he's out of control, and what he's doing for the Rockets is incredible.
And I loved how in the post game, Ime went out of his way to say they didn't play him enough in the first half because me and you during the game, I texted wondering if Steven was hurt because he played 5 minutes in the first quarter and he was incredibly impactful. That's when the game turned from, the Blazers had a lead in the first 6 minutes of the game and it immediately flipped where the Blazers at one point were up by as many as 9 and the Rockets were up by 10 before the first quarter was over. And a lot of that run was with Steven in the game. And then we didn't see him in the second quarter other than when he came on the floor to help Tari off the floor. He didn't play. And I thought it was so weird. And I think it's just one of those when things started to sort of eat away the lead that is, it was a little late in the second quarter, and I don't think Ime wanted to go to the double big. But after the game, he said, yeah, 5 minutes was too low, and he played him more in the second half, and the results speak for themselves. He just makes life so much easier for all of his teammates. I mean, this team is it's limited defensively, at least without Dorian Finney-Smith, but I think his willingness to do the dirty work is is really important. Like we talk a lot about Steven offensively with obviously how he crashes the glass on that end and the screen setting, but also defensively for a team that isn't as good as a year ago at denying dribble penetration. When Steven's at the game, his ability to protect the paint and serve as a deterrent to drivers, I think that's really, really important because we know some of these teams have a lot of athletes, and especially if the Rockets have to survive some time without Tari, we don't know that yet, but I'm just, speculating. It wouldn't shock me if, the way he limps off, if he needs a little bit of time. Stevens' presence near the rim to make sure that the other team isn't getting that many offensive boards and doesn't have a clear driving lane to get right to the rim. Like there were several possessions tonight where, the Blazers would beat someone off the dribble and then backed it, turned around and backed out because they saw Steven in there. And I think that's so important for this particular Rockets team where the defense, it's not bad, but it's not as elite as it was a year ago. And so I think the presence of Steven Adams, the size, is especially important given that.
Yeah, 3 second round picks, Ben. That's what, and one of them wasn't even really a
Yeah,
second round pick. It
it,
was
it
like a
was like Mr.
58th or
Irrelevant.
59th
Yeah.
pick. Yeah, so basically two legit second round picks. And
And
I don't
look
know
at how
what
the
Memphis.
culture in Memphis has gone downhill since Steven left.
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
people talk about losing Dylan, but losing Steven was a big blow too.
Absolutely agree. Memphis just shot themselves in the foot with that trade. Got almost nothing for him. Granted, he was injured. Rockets had to be patient, as far as seeing the value of Steven Adams. But look where they are now, and what a steal by Rafael Stone. That was a hell of a move. Let's talk real quick about Tari. Tari has been amazing shooting lights out lately. He was kind of a chaotic mess in this game. He only played for looking at it 10 to 11 minutes, but there were some plays you're just left scratching your head like, what is going on, Tari? Missed a few shots, but just I don't know, weird stuff. But he gets hurt on that play we played earlier that has a hip contusion. I haven't looked at this enough to know what we're looking at as far as him being out. Rockets do have a few tougher games coming up. You got Orlando, probably without Paolo Banchero on Sunday. You have Cleveland in there. You're going to have Denver next week in NBA Cup action. Are you concerned?
I think it's too early to know. It's one of those you have to see how he reports the next day. Like so much of it is going to come down to the swelling. How quickly does it subside? I'd be surprised if he plays Sunday no matter what, because it's a game where at home you should be favored regardless. And as you mentioned, the schedule coming up is pretty difficult. Cleveland, Denver, you've got Golden State right before Thanksgiving, which could be for survival in the NBA Cup. So it's not necessarily a big deal. Like there's a ton of variance with hip injuries. Yeah, you see on the screen right there. I mean, look what happened to Bradley Beal. Yeah, it totally depends on severity. He was able to put weight on it. He got some assistance from Steven, but it wasn't like he had to literally get carried off. So,
Yeah.
you know, early indications, from what little I've seen would suggest that it's probably manageable. I saw Tari's mom tweeting during the game, which you would like to think that maybe she's exchanged a text or two with Tari backstage at Toyota Center. So, um, it's too early to really know, but I'm hopeful that maybe it's just a few days, but it's going to be pretty impossible to know until he reports back Saturday and you see what the bruising and the swelling looks like, and if they need to do any further imaging.
Yeah, absolutely. And thoughts and prayers out there for Tari. Obviously, we want him back and healthy, and he's been having a terrific season. And
And
this is a very big year for him with the contract. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, and there's a couple of comments in the chat about who will fill in if Tari can't touch the floor. Um, Aaron Holiday did tonight, and I thought that was an interesting wrinkle. Like there might be some teams where it's difficult to play Aaron because obviously if you play both Aaron and Reed, which they did tonight, your backcourt is really small. But if you can get away with it, and it was working tonight, that would be my preference rather than Jay Tate, because I really think if this Rockets team can get the 3 point volume discrepancy in check, and as mentioned earlier, tonight it was in their favor, and they can also keep the turnovers in check, just imagine what this offense can do. They put up 140 tonight for a reason. Like
Yeah.
this was a team that was rated first in the NBA in offense, even while being near the bottom in turnovers, and even while being at the bottom in 3 point volume discrepancy. So just imagine what they can do if they clean those two things up. So for those reasons, limiting turnovers, Aaron's another ball handler, and being able to put up and make threes, my preference would be Holiday over Tate. It just depends. There might be some matchups where it's just a little bit too small because obviously Reed's development is always going to come first like that, especially, well, it's not just his development. I mean, look how he's progressing over the last week. So you're
Mm.
not going to pull Reed for Aaron. That ship has long sailed. But if you can get away with Holiday rather than Tate, that would be my preference, because I think the bottom line, if you keep the turnovers and the 3 point volume discrepancy in check, and you certainly did that tonight, in fact you won both of those, then boy, this team is going to be impossible to stop offensively. And yeah, as Astro Rocket pointed out on this, you've got on the screen now, it's also more minutes for Kogi. Even though Josh was starting, there were a lot of games where he'd start and play the first 6 or 7 minutes of each half, but didn't play too much more. Maybe one more stint for 4 or 5 minutes after that. You can easily expand that role to something closer to 30 minutes per game. And I thought he looked really good tonight as well. So
Yeah.
that's another option, even if he's technically already ahead of Tari in the sense that he's starting and Tari was coming off the bench. You can play Josh a few more minutes, and that'll help. If it's a matchup where Aaron's too small, then yeah, Josh is something that, in terms of the athletic, physical wing type, is a little bit closer to who Tari is as a player.
I don't know if I gave enough credit to Okogie. Okogie played excellent defense tonight. Of course, it was a team effort, but Deni Avdija, it really didn't take off till the second half. And so I probably need to go back and watch that first half to kind of figure out what happened there. But I'm sure Okogie was doing a good number on him
Yeah.
as well as others. But I mean, Avdija last 5 games averaging over 30 points a game. I don't know if Washington would have dealt him if they saw this coming. But yeah, I mean, he's been terrific for Portland. I know we've touched on him a little bit, but it's now mandatory. Every video we do, we have to do at least a couple of minutes strictly on Reed Sheppard. But Reed just looks at, like you said, he has kind of slipped as far as, I mean, it's not slipped. Tonight wasn't having that shot, the hot shooting that he's had the last
Yeah.
few games. But he just looks comfortable. He's making plays. He looks more aggressive on the defensive end. He almost just looks like he's found his niche. Now I don't know if that's gonna, against a top 10 defense or against teams that are going to attack him, how that'll hold up. But he just looks much more comfortable. Like this, the game has slowed down for him. He's reading the Matrix sort of thing. And that's what I'm seeing out of Reed Sheppard. I'm not as concerned as I was before when he comes into the game. Like, okay, we might take a significant step back.
Right. Well, you look back to his rookie season, and so much of it just depended on whether the first shot or two went in. And if it didn't, you would see him get more timid. He wouldn't want to risk sinking his team. And defensively, he's a guy who needs to take some risk. Otherwise, his profile's going to be difficult. Well, I think what we're seeing now is that regardless of how a game starts for him, he keeps pushing on both ends of the floor. And as long as he plays sufficient minutes, and clearly Ime is rewarding him and the Rockets are benefiting as a team, then eventually the sample, maybe not every game, but in most games, it's going to be large enough for it to normalize, and the home run plays are going to be worth it. We didn't see a ton of them on offense tonight, although he did have a couple of big threes. Defensively, yeah, he had some huge plays in the fourth quarter, even though you would think
4
that a lineup
steals.
with with Reed and Aaron would get picked on. That's not what happened at all. In fact, that's when the Rockets put the game away. So yeah, for me, Reed talked about confidence being the main thing after the Washington game, which was his sort of breakout, his season high in points, I believe. And that's what sticks out to me the most. It just comes down to him looking like a much more confident player on both ends of the floor and trusting that, hey, if I stick with my process and like he knows what his formula needs to be for his model to work at the NBA level. It's just about he needs to trust it, even if the first few minutes don't go that well, even if you start 2 of 8 the way he did tonight, okay, just stick with it. You're a good enough player. You belong. That in time, it's going to even out. He trusts it a lot more now than he did as a rookie. To me, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I mean, along with the Rockets' hot offense, the difference in turnovers tonight, 20-6, and the points off turnovers being significant. Reed was a part of that. 4 steals.
Yep.
Okogie had 4 steals. I believe Sengun had 3 steals. That was the difference in the game. Usually it's rebounding where the Rockets dominate you. Tonight it was surprisingly, right? The no point guard Rockets, 6 turnovers to their 20. I will say Jrue Holiday looked pretty darn good early on. He didn't finish with an incredible line or anything, but we were joking, you and I, about an audition for the Rockets if this didn't quite work out, with Portland down the line. I mean, his contract's not exactly super pretty, but
yeah,
Jrue is a guy who I think would be on the short list of targets, despite the kind of contract.
He's an Ime Udoka culture guy. Yeah, you can tell.
Absolutely. And we have his brother, right? So, and Dorian Finney-Smith, someone was asking in the chat about if there's an update. I don't have an update. It's still very open-ended. They're kind of hush-hush on this. I don't know if you've heard anything, Ben, but
nothing new. I mean, he is at practices. He is doing drills off on the sides. He's doing some basketball activities, but he's not cleared for contact. So it's not like he's in hiding. I mean, that to me is a little bit of a silver lining. It's not like they're trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes. No, he's right there. He's doing things. He's on the treadmill. He's running off on the side. He's around the team. It's not like something serious has happened and they're just trying to keep you from noticing. No, it's just he needs more time to strengthen that ankle. Apparently, it's been an issue the last couple of years for him, and he played through it. And this year, they want to get it, completely right. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be, super long. I don't see any indications that it's something that, should be super troubling. But at the same time, there's nothing I've seen that indicates it's going to be, imminent either in terms of his return.
And Ime did say after the game he had no update on Tari either. So hopefully we'll get some good news tomorrow, I would think, at least as far as some sort of update of what they're doing with Tari Eason. That is Ben DuBose. Go follow him on Twitter at Ben DuBose. Also on the Rockets Wire. You can follow him on Clutch Fans. He writes for Clutch Fans as well. Ben, awesome. Appreciate you doing this. Everybody, appreciate all the support. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And we will see you guys on Sunday after the Rockets take on the Orlando Magic. Thanks, everybody.